With a population of over 90 million people, Vietnam is home to stunning landscapes, historical temples, and boasts some of the fastest growing cities on the planet. On this unforgettable journey, we travel from the mountain ranges in the north of the country to the tropical south, taking in stunning geographical wonders, towering pagodas, and a landscape of breathtaking diversity. Discover the ruins of ancient kingdoms, monuments to the country's last line of emperors, and a land which has been profoundly shaped by the competing influence of superpowers, ancient and modern. Most recently by the brutal Vietnam War. Join us as we tell the story of some of the country's greatest heroes and take in its breathtaking scenery, including some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And with their jaw-dropping feats of modern architecture, we witness the birth of its state-of-the-art new megacities. This is Vietnam, as you have never seen it before. Vietnam is located on the eastern margin of the Indo-Chinese peninsula and borders China, Laos and Cambodia. After the French Indochina War of 1954, the country was split into North and South Vietnam. It would remain divided until the end of the Vietnam War. We start our journey in the capital, Hanoi, before taking in Ha Long Bay and nearby Ninh Binh. We then travel to the port city of Da Nang and visit Hoi An and Hue. Finally, we take a tour of Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon. Welcome to Hanoi, the capital city of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. With a population of 7.7 million people, it is the second largest city in Vietnam after Ho Chi Minh City. Hanoi was once the most important political and cultural center in Vietnam and was occupied by the French in 1873. Remnants of the French colonial era are found throughout the city, alongside relics of ancient Vietnam. In the heart of Hanoi is the Hoan Kiem Lake with its central turtle tower. According to legend, Emperor Li Lui was asked by a turtle god on the lake to throw back into its waters a mystical sword he had used in his fight against Ming China. The lake was renamed Hoan Kiem, or Returning Sword. On the lake's northern shore is the Temple of the Jade Mountain, built to honor the 13th century hero Chang Fung Dao, who won several victories against Yuan Emperor Kublai Khan. On the northwest shore of the lake, we find the Temple of Literature. Dedicated to Confucius, it was once the center of education in Vietnam and home to Vietnam's Imperial Academy, established in 1076. Hanoi remains the center of society in Vietnam to this day and is home to countless museums and cultural centers. The Vietnam Museum of Ethnology is located in the center of the city. This museum offers a unique insight into the 54 ethnic groups who make up Vietnam's diverse population. The museum is engaged in an effort to promote social and cultural diversity across the country. The outdoor display area features a variety of traditional Vietnamese structures. This is Narong Communal House, found amongst the villages of the Ba Na people, who live in Vietnam's central highlands. The house has a magnificent thatched roof and hosts local festivities and performances. This is a traditional timber and bamboo longhouse of the Ede people, many of whom fought alongside the United States in the Vietnam War. Here is a traditional Vietnamese water puppet theatre. Originating in the 11th century near the Red Delta in the north, its stories are drawn from Vietnamese folklore and performances are still popular today. Traditional Vietnamese culture and architecture was transformed in the French colonial period. Modeled on the Palais Garnier, the Hanoi Opera House was completed in 1911. After French rule, it was used to showcase Vietnamese works, both traditional theatre and modern opera. Here too, on the 16th of August 1945, the Communist Viet Minh announced from the balcony they had taken over the city. At the northern edge of Hanoi, we find the Ho Chi, or West Lake. With a 17-kilometre circumference, this is the largest freshwater lake in the capital, and one of 20 which encircle the city. The statues on its banks are the country's largest ceramic dragons. Near the southeast shore of the lake is Chang Kok Pagoda, the oldest Buddhist pagoda in Vietnam. Constructed in 554 AD on the banks of the Red River, it was relocated to the shores of the West Lake in 1615. The lake was once a bend in the Red River before its course shifted to the east. Upstream is the magnificent Nhiat Tham Bridge. 8 kilometers in length and 33 meters wide, it was made possible with a development loan from the Japanese government. Its 5 towers symbolize the capital's 5 ancient gates, and it links the city of Hanoi with Noi Bai International Airport. Further downstream is the Long Bien Bridge. It was completed in 1903 during the French colonial period and designed by Gustave Eiffel, the same architect who designed the famous tower in Paris. The bridge came under heavy bombardment during the Vietnam War, but remarkably, some of the original structure remains today. It is a poignant symbol of Hanoian tenacity and resilience. To the west of the city is the South Tu Liem district. This relatively new urban area is the home of several of the city's largest skyscrapers and a number of other modern developments. This is the Hanoi Museum, opened in 2010 to commemorate the city's 1,000-year anniversary. With a distinctive inverted pyramid design, the 4-story museum is the country's largest exhibition space. It is also a celebrated architectural achievement in its own right, surrounded by monuments and traditional buildings. South Tu Liem also hosts the elegant Marriott Hotel. Constructed at the edge of a man-made lake, it was designed to represent Vietnam's stunning coastline. The angular, curling form of the building itself aims to mimic the movement of a dragon. Here in Tu Liem, we also find the tallest building in Vietnam, the landmark 72 building. Over 72 stories high, the super-tall multiplex includes luxury offices, a department store, and a swimming pool. Hanoi is one of the fastest urbanizing cities in Southeast Asia. However, the government is under increasing pressure to ensure that infrastructure and employment rates keep pace with the ambitious urban development goals. 180 kilometers to the east of Hanoi is Ha Long, capital of the mountainous Quang Ninh province. A former coal mining town, Ha Long has experienced rapid growth thanks to business with China and a booming tourism industry. The city lies along Ha Long Bay. Here we find 2,000 towering limestone casts and smaller islets dotted around the Gulf of Tonkin. The product of 20 million years of geological evolution, this vision of otherworldly beauty was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. In 1288, it was here that Commander Chang Fung Dao fought back Kublai Khan's invading army. More recently, during the Vietnam War, the area was heavily mined by the US Army, which continues to threaten local shipping to this day. This is Din Phuong Islet, or Incense Burner Islet. It is said to resemble the shape of an incense burner, the image of which is printed on the 200,000 Vietnamese dollar bill. At the heart of Ha Long Bay is T-Top Island. Encircled by a crescent-shaped white sandy beach, it draws tourists in their thousands. The communist leader Ho Chi Minh named this island after German Titov, a popular Russian cosmonaut. Its small port now boasts a statue of Titov, which was unveiled in 2015. Around 200 kilometers to the southwest of Ha Long Bay is Ninh Binh province. Located on the Red River Delta, here we find Chang An, a breathtaking landscape of limestone karst peaks. Many of them are partially submerged in water and surrounded by almost vertical cliffs. From the village of Tam Kok, tourists take small wooden boats called sampan. Paddled by local women using their feet, they are guided along the Godong River towards Tam Kok, a flooded cave system, and Big Dong, a series of elegant mountain pagodas. The rice paddies along the route are a spectacular sight in themselves, and known to locals as the Green Sea. Along the riverbank is the Mua Cave. Above it, 500 steps up the cliff face, is a pagoda dedicated to Qua Nam, the goddess of compassion, whose likeness can be found in temples and pagodas across Vietnam. Along the ridge is a large stone dragon. The dragon often symbolizes Vietnam itself. According to legend, the king of the ancient North Vietnamese Lac Viet people was born from the egg of a dragon. Chang An was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2014. Having supported communities in the region for thousands of years, the landscape now faces a relatively recent influx of tourists. Hundreds of traditional boats are operated by educated local guides who encourage tourists to respect the beauty of the countryside and help preserve the landscape for generations to come. Also in Ninh Binh province is Hoa Lu, the 10th century capital of Vietnam, and the first capital of the Proto-Vietnamese state of Dai Co Viet. Following the defeat of China's Southern Han dynasty, who had dominated Vietnam for centuries, Dinh Dien Hoang defeated 12 warring tribes, uniting various provinces under his rule and naming himself emperor. While little of the original 10th century architecture remains at the site of the former capital, temples have since been built in honor of the country's first rulers. Just 10 kilometers to the west of the ancient capital is one of the largest Buddhist temple complexes in Southeast Asia, Bai Dinh Temple. Completed in 2010, the complex includes 3 temples and the Bai Dinh Pagoda, which at 100 meters high is the tallest in Vietnam. Bai Dinh's Tam Te Hall rises up to 34 meters high, and its design adheres to traditional Vietnamese aesthetics, each corner eave resembling the tail of a phoenix. The host of a large festival each lunar month, Bai Dinh Temple attracts pilgrims from across Southeast Asia. The lunar calendar is particularly significant in Vietnam, and the most important celebration, Tet, heralds the start of a new lunar year. Around 500 kilometers south lies the former demilitarized zone, or the DMZ. This zone separated the Communist North from South Vietnam after 1954. Alarmed by the spread of communism in the region, the US formally entered the war in 1965. The Khe San Combat Base was built to help stem the North Vietnamese supply lines the Americans called the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The base came under siege by the North Vietnamese in January 1968. Some claim that the bloody battle was a deliberate distraction from the buildup of Viet Cong forces ahead of the early 1968 Tet Offensive. On the lunar holiday, North Vietnamese troops attacked multiple US positions in South Vietnam. The Tet Offensive would ultimately bring the US to the negotiating table and bring an end to the war. The abandoned base is now occupied by a small museum and contains a number of American tanks and aircraft. While the DMZ ceased to exist after the reunification of Vietnam, since the end of the war, over 40,000 people have been killed by unexploded ordnance, which still lies buried beneath the earth. One 100 kilometers south of the DMZ is the city of Hue, the former seat of the Nguyen dynasty, Vietnam's last emperors and former capital under French rule. The city's perfume river takes its name from the fact that in the autumn, flowers from orchards upstream fall into the river, giving the water a delicate aroma. The Chang Tien Bridge, which crosses the river, was designed by Gustave Eiffel and completed in 1899. It was destroyed during the French Indochina War and the Tet Offensive, to be rebuilt on both occasions. Its resilience makes it an important modern symbol for the city today. Further along the river, we find the Tien Mu Pagoda, the pagoda of the Celestial Lady. The complex was built in 1601 by a Nguyen lord. The Nguyen were the de facto rulers of central Vietnam at the time. The 7-story tower, Phoc Tu Nyen, which stands on the site today, was actually built in the 19th century. Measuring 21 meters high, it was built on the orders of the Emperor Tieo Chi, the 3rd emperor of the Yuan dynasty. The 1st emperor of the Yuan dynasty, Gia Long, supported by French troops, was the first to unite all of what is present-day Vietnam. But after a series of military victories, the French forced the imperial family to capitulate. In 1883, the Treaty of Veiw officially recognized Vietnam as a French protectorate, the basis of French rule in Vietnam for the next 70 years. The center of the old capital is the Veiw Citadel, built in the orders of Gia Long and famous for its striking flag tower. Inside the citadel is the imperial city within its own fortified walls. The Tai Hua Palace is a powerful symbol of the Yuan dynasty. The palace retained its ceremonial importance until the end of the monarchy in 1945, when Emperor Bao Dai abdicated the throne and transferred power to the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Along the banks of the Perfume River can be found the imperial mausoleums of Vietnam's last imperial family. This is the tomb of Khai Dinh, the 12th emperor of the Yuan dynasty. It was built on the outskirts of Hue between 1920 and 1931. Like a number of Vietnamese emperors, Khai Dinh commanded the preparation of a tomb in anticipation of his death. His proximity to the French government made him deeply unpopular. Inspired by a visit to France in 1925 before his death, it was built with materials such as concrete, slate, and wrought iron. It contains a statue of his likeness, cast in Marseille. Here is the tomb of the 2nd Yuan emperor, Minh Mang. Minh Mang was well known for his opposition to French involvement in Vietnam and his rigid Confucian orthodoxy. He is also remembered for imposing Confucian tradition on ethnic minorities in Cambodia and brutally executing French missionaries. The imperial tomb is a reflection of Confucian Chinese architectural concepts. We can trace these in the monuments, statues, gardens, and in the bridge over a lake of lotus flowers, which gives access to the imperial tomb itself. To the southeast of Hue, along the coast of the South China Sea, is the Hai Vang Pass, a 21-kilometer mountain road. It crosses a spur of the Annamite Mountains and once formed the boundary between the kingdoms of Dai Viet and Champa. Hai Vang Pass has also been a key strategic military post during times of war. Today, the road offers beautiful views over the sea and is a popular highway connecting central Vietnamese cities such as Hue and Da Nang. Crossing the Hai Vang Pass, we reach the white sands and the blue oceans of the country's tropical south. Located on the coast of the South China Sea, at the mouth of the Han River, is Da Nang, Vietnam's 5th largest city. Historically dating back to the kingdom of Champa in the 2nd century, Da Nang came to be one of French Indochina's 5 major cities. It was on a stretch of beach near Da Nang that on the 8th of March 1965, US ground troops first disembarked from their landing crafts and waded on to Vietnam's shores. The decision of the communist government to implement economic reforms known as Doi Moi in 1986 transformed the city into a modern metropolis and tourist hub. A popular attraction is this marble statue of a carp becoming a dragon. Spanning the Han River itself, the striking Dragon Bridge has become a Da Nang icon. The bridge was completed in 2013 and is 666 meters long and 37.5 meters wide. This modern bridge actually does breathe fire and water each Saturday and Sunday night. Further along the Han River, in the Hai Chau district, is a recently opened amusement park, Sun World Da Nang Wonders, also known as Asia Park. It is themed around the countries and cultures of Asia. The Hai Chau district is the cultural and commercial center of the city. Tien Song Sports Palace is one of the largest multi-purpose halls in Da Nang and hosts large national sporting events and international summits. Its recent refurbishment is one of many new developments as the city responds to 20% growth year on year of foreign tourists. Nine kilometers south of the city center are the Five Elements Mountains, a cluster of 5 marble and limestone hills. They boast several temples, including the stunning pagoda of Po Dong. Many feature statues and religious scenes carved out of the marble from the mountain itself. Nearby, we find Hoi An, another central city in the ancient Champa Kingdom. Hoi An Historic District is a well-preserved trading port dating back to the 15th century. Between the 7th and 10th centuries, the Cham controlled the spice trade, and with this came tremendous wealth. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Chinese people from various provinces settled here, along with Portuguese, Japanese, Dutch, and Indian merchants. Originally, Hoi An was a divided town. The Japanese settlement was accessible by what is known today as the Japanese Bridge. The bridge was first constructed here in the 1590s by the Japanese community to link it with the Chinese settlement. The modern structure was built in the 18th century and features elegant carvings representing the years in which Japanese emperors were born. The early history of Hoi An is that of the Cham people. The Champa Empire once occupied much of what is now central and lower Vietnam. In the early years, Hoi An was the commercial center, with a spiritual capital at the nearby temple complex My Song. From the 2nd century AD until 1832, when it was annexed by the Emperor Minh Mang, the Champa kingdom was steeped in Hindu spirituality. Constructed between the 4th and 14th centuries, these temples are dedicated to the god Shiva. My Song is among the oldest inhabited sites in Indochina, but a large majority of its architecture was destroyed by US carpet bombing during a single week of the Vietnam War. Most of the temples at My Song were made of red brick. To this day, the construction techniques used by the Cham builders to erect such magnificent structures remain a mystery. Inscriptions uncovered at My Song revealed the name of the ancient kingdom Nagara Champa in Old Cham. Other inscriptions allude to 12th century conflicts between the Kingdom of Champa and Cambodia. While the Viet people largely gained control of this region in the 11th century and forced the Champa to move south, their leaders managed to maintain the temple complex. My Song was registered as a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site in 1999. Its museum contains information about the carvings, statues, and architecture, as well as information about Cham culture, religion, and way of life. This is the port of Phan Thiet, once a fishing port of the Champa Kingdom. Today at its center is a bustling harbor full of colorful boats, outdoor markets, and seafood restaurants. On a nearby hill, commanding an excellent view over the sea, we find another remnant of the Champa Kingdom, the Poshunu Cham Towers. They were built during the late 8th century to honor Hindu deities Lord Shiva, Agni, and Nandi. The ethnic Cham community, who still number over 160,000 in Vietnam today, continue to visit the ruins to mark religious festival days. In recent years, Phan Thiet, and in particular Mui Ne region, has become famous as a seaside resort. The 50-kilometer coast is lined with luxurious hotels, restaurants, bars, and cafes. Mui Ne is particularly famous for its enormous red and white sand dunes. The White Dunes, 24 kilometers to the northeast of Mui Ne, are perhaps the most impressive. The constant ocean winds sculpt the sands into spectacular formations like those found in the Sahara Desert. The red sand dunes are the smaller of the two, and located directly next to the main coastal road running out of Mui Ne. These dunes are a rusty red color and are particularly beautiful in the setting sun. Located 18 kilometers northeast of Phan Thiet city is Sui Tien, or the Fairy Stream. The geological formation is flanked by a mix of white and red sand dunes on one side, and trees, blossoming flowers, and coconut palms on the other. "350 kilometers along the coast to the west is the mouth of the Mekong River. The Mekong Delta encompasses a large portion of southwestern Vietnam of over 40,000 square kilometers. From the Tibetan Plateau to the East Sea, The Mekong River runs through 5 countries before reaching the delta. Kai Be, here on the river, hosts one of the many historic floating markets. Kai Be is one of the most important centers for the distribution of agricultural products, especially tropical fruits, in the whole country. Unfortunately, business here is declining every year as trade shifts to more modern central markets. To the north, we come to Ho Chi, about 40 kilometers northwest of Ho Chi Minh City. The town is famous for the Ho Chi tunnels, an elaborate underground network of 250 kilometers of tunnels and chambers, which once housed the community of Ho Chi. The tunnels were dug during the French occupation and further expanded during the Vietnam War in the 1960s. Despite US bombings, the Ho Chi people continued their lives beneath the ground. Inside the Ben Duc Temple, the Martyr Memorial was built to commemorate the contributions of over 10,000 soldiers and civilians killed in this region during wartime. We have arrived at the final destination of our aerial journey, Ho Chi Minh City, widely known to locals by its former name of Saigon. Saigon was the capital of the independent Republic of South Vietnam. After the Vietnam War, it was officially renamed Ho Chi Minh City after the Prime Minister and revolutionary communist leader. Today, the city is home to nearly 8.6 million people and is one of the fastest growing cities on Earth. The Ho Chi Minh Museum tells the story of the legendary leader. His journey around the world to discover how to release Vietnam from the grip of colonialism. His founding of the Vietnamese Communist Party, and his role in the Vietnam War. It was from the adjacent Dragon Wharf that in 1911, the 21-year-old Ho Chi Minh embarked on an epic 30-year journey of discovery. The Independence Palace is located at the heart of Ho Chi Minh City. Also known as Reunification Palace, it was formerly used by colonial and South Vietnamese leaders. On the morning of the 30th of April 1975, a North Vietnamese army tank bulldozed through the main gate of the palace during what would become known as the Fall of Saigon. The end of the Vietnam War was in sight. The nearby War Remnants Museum aims to draw attention to the struggle of the Vietnamese people against invading forces and seeks to educate the public about the devastating consequences of colonialism and wars of aggression. The collection in the museum includes M48 and M41 tanks, as well as the iconic Chinook aircraft. A UH-1 Huey helicopter, F-5A fighter, and A-37 Dragonfly attack bomber are also on display on the yard. Inside the building are exhibits dedicated to victims who suffered from exposure to the pesticide chemical spray, Agent Orange, and napalm attacks by US aircraft. This is Saigon Railway Station, the largest and most important railway hub in the country. It is the last stop on the North-South Railway, the line established during French colonial rule, connecting the capital Hanoi in the north to Ho Chi Minh City in the south. The swift restoration and repair of the line by the Communist government in 1976 was promoted as a symbol of Vietnamese unity. This line is sometimes referred to by locals as the Reunification Express. Ho Chi Minh City displays a number of striking examples of French colonial architecture. Among those is the Notre Dame Cathedral Basilica of Saigon, constructed between 1863 and 1880. The cathedral has two impressive bell towers, each at 58 meters tall. All original building materials were imported from France, and the cathedral was designed to bear 10 times its weight. In October 2005, the statue of the Virgin Mary outside was reported to have shed tears, attracting thousands of people. Across the street from the cathedral, the Central Post Office is another beautifully preserved example of French colonial architecture. It is both a popular tourist attraction and still functions today as Ho Chi Minh City's central post office. This is Tan Dien Church. Its intricate Gothic and Renaissance elements have survived Vietnam's turbulent recent history. Built in 1876 and measuring 60 meters in height, it is the second largest church in Ho Chi Minh City after Notre Dame Cathedral. The first church on this site was built in December 1876, but in 1957 the church was refurbished and painted bright pink, a color which it has sported ever since. The Municipal Theatre of Ho Chi Minh, also known as the Saigon Opera House, was built in 1897 and was influenced by the flamboyant style of the French Third Republic. In 1954, it was used as a temporary shelter for French civilians after the French army surrendered to the Viet Minh. It would then become the home of the Lower House Assembly of South Vietnam and was used again as a theatre in 1975. Vietnam was historically subject to frequent invasions by neighboring superpowers, including China and the Mongolian Empire. In the 13th century, Kublai Khan tried multiple times to invade the country, but one of Vietnam's greatest national heroes stood in his way. Chang Phung Dao, commander of the Dai Viet armies. His victories are considered among the greatest military feats in Vietnamese history. Due to a millennium of Chinese rule, Vietnam was heavily influenced by Chinese art and culture, including Confucian moral and artistic principles. This Chinese-influenced temple is Yak Lam Pagoda, Built in 1744, it is one of the oldest and most majestic temples in the city. Inside this richly decorated shrine are beautifully rendered images of Buddha in various incarnations, along with numerous Taoist deities. Construction of this large stupa began in 1970, until it was temporarily put on hold in 1975 following the fall of Saigon. The new addition to the temple complex was finally completed in 1994. During the war, the South Vietnamese president Ngo Dinh Diem's pro-Catholic policies antagonized many Buddhists. The Buddhist crisis was brought to global attention on June the 11th, 1963, when Buddhist monk Thích Quang Duc set himself on fire. The stupa under construction here is being erected in his honor. The 40-meter-high Veiw Nhiem Pagoda, completed in 1971, is the first pagoda in Vietnam to have been built out of concrete in Vietnamese traditional architecture style. The extent of Vietnamese enthusiasm for Buddhism can be seen at the popular Buddhist-themed amusement park, Dai Nam Park. Dai Nam Park is a huge complex which consists of a zoo, a water park, amusement rides, hotels, a movie theatre, as well as numerous temples. The Golden Temple here was once itself the largest in Vietnam. It is a spectacular work of art, which houses various statues of worship and objects inlaid with gold. Behind the temple is Dai Nam Sea. This artificial sea covers 20,000 square meters and is considered the largest artificial sea in the Southeast Asian region. With man-made waves up to 1.6 meters high, it is also the largest wave pool in Vietnam. It is particularly popular with visitors during the Lunar Tet New Year holiday. The population of Ho Chi Minh City has since 1999 been increasing at an average annual rate of over 6%. And the city continues to expand outwards into the suburbs and surrounding countryside. Phu My Hung in the city's District 7 was built on reclaimed wetland and is one of the most recently developed urban areas. On the western banks of the Saigon River, Vinhome Central Park is another new urban development. Boasting the super tall 469.5 meter Landmark 81 skyscraper, the area is expected to become a major new subcenter of the city. At a height of 145 meters, Saigon Trade Center was once the tallest building in Vietnam, until Landmark 81 became the tallest in 2018 at almost 3 times the height. District 1 is also home to the Ho Chi Minh City Stock Exchange and the Vietnamese headquarters of international banks and multinational corporations. Most streets designed and built since 1946 were completed by the French, including Nguyen Phuê Street, a broad walking promenade in the middle of District 1. But the city is changing fast. Bitexco Financial Tower now stands imposingly over District 1. At 262.5 meters, it is the second tallest building in the city. This skyscraper's unique shape was inspired by Vietnam's national flower, the lotus. Its helipad extends 22 meters out from the main structure and represents a blossoming lotus bud. A fitting symbol of the modern nation, the tower combines ancient symbolism with modern dynamism. It harks back to the country's traditional past and looks towards a bright and prosperous future for Vietnam.